Live. Okay. Hi, welcome everyone to the Polkadot Technical Fellowship OpenDev call, episode 20. So this is 21 months of technical fellowship calls. We skipped a month last year during the Web3 Summit. But yeah, look at all the people that we have here. So these are the fellows from the Polkadot Technical Fellowship, the Polkadot core developers, the people working on the runtime. And we also have a special guest today, which is Jonas Gerlein. He is a researcher at the Web3 Foundation. And Jonas, we are gonna start with you, I would say. So Jonas, you're a researcher at the Web3 Foundation, and there is two issues that we want to discuss today with you. So the first one is about Coretime sales. So there has been a little bit of a history in the recent days, and maybe you can touch on that. And then after that, we also want to touch on a new proposal for deflationary mechanics in the transaction fee model. So yeah, Jonas, do you want to give us a little bit of an introduction to what is currently going on with Coretime?
Sure. I mean, like probably the current situation and the current model is well known. What I'm proposing in RFC 17 is somewhat like a revisit of this whole mechanism, where I think we want to make sure that renewers have always kind of the right to renew, which is very important for the teams that are on Polkadot. But we want to also make sure that they kind of pay a fair price, or like somewhat of a market price. So I think the best way to move forward is to actually combine these renewals with some market phase and actually make renewers somewhat of something very similar to the market price. But still give them the guarantee that whenever they can pay, they can still be in the system. And I think this is a good compromise. If you think about these kind of market interventions, in a sense, you always gain some inefficiency somewhere. But I think from our perspective, it's much more important that, you know, we just don't randomly or like by accident kick out people from their cores if they, didn't manage to secure a core in one cycle, but actually were able to pay it. And yeah, the RFC 17 lays out like a whole structure of a system that, in my opinion, can achieve that.
All right, so you say RFC 17, so it's a fairly early one. This was one that I guess has been proposed in August 23. So this is almost 1.5 years ago, or even a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any fellows who want to comment on this? or ask questions.
I mean, there has been some extensive discussion in the issue. So for everybody that's interested, they can follow that. But yeah, I'm happy to take questions.
Jonas, who have been the fellows that have been involved with the implementation or the recent discussion?
Yeah, I think that is one of the issues. So right now there's no implementation because also the RFC is not ratified by the fellowship. So I think we also should, talk about how to move forward. There's some people also in the issue which are a little bit critical towards the system. I think I can address all the issues, and every kind of design has their flaws, and if we fix it in one trade-off, we introduce some other trade-off. But like we had a call with some of the people yesterday, a closed call, and it seems to me that we are converging towards like that this is a feasible proposal, and I think we should sooner rather than later have a vote on it, and then be able to put in the resources to actually implement this. Because even if we agree that this is the way forward, I think it still requires some time to implement it. And yeah, on Polkadot, the situation is kind of not ideal. So we want to don't waste too much time here.
Maybe I missed it, but maybe it would be good that you could explain how that would solve the current situation, or how you think it would solve the current situation.
Yeah. Okay, so one obvious problem that we have now is that the renewal prices are not increasing a lot once you secure the core. And together with the problem that prices were decreasing quite a lot, somebody can just get the core and renew for a very long time for very cheap. And in RFC 17, that would not really be possible, because if you drive up the consumption, then the market price is increasing. And in the market phase, where everybody would be bidding, there would be a market price, and the renewers would need to pay that market price either by participating in the auction, or they would actually be punished for not participating in the auction with, right now, it's a 30% penalty. So you can decide not to engage with the system and then just take whatever price comes out of the auction phase, but then you would need to pay a penalty. And this is important because we actually want to drive activity in the auctions. And yeah, so this situation would, I mean, it's not really possible to hoard cores for cheap, because if you have the cores, you need to pay for them the same market price as everybody else. Of course, an attacker that has the money could still buy cores and not use them, but it gets prohibitively expensive. And yeah, it's very expensive to renew the cores and keep the cores. And if we, trust some basic economic intuition that if you have no benefit of keeping the cores and only costs, at some point you want to give up the cores. And yeah, this is a fundamental problem that we have in a permissionless network, that we never really know who actually uses a core well or not. So we kind of have to use the market to determine that. And right now, somebody that has a core for very cheap is not really being forced to pay a lot for it, even if the demand is very high. And this creates inefficiencies. But in the new system, that entity would need to renew at the same cost as everybody else. And therefore, we would assume that they get driven out and have to give up the cores.
Jonas, how do you feel about the solution last month to add more cores, where OpenDev decided to add a few more cores?
Oh, that's yeah, I think that was necessary and important, right? There was this kind of discussion whether governance should actually be intervening here, because the Coretime Baron basically just played the game, and we shouldn't hate the player, we should hate the game, which there is some truth to this. But also, I think, at least in my opinion, Polkadot is meant to adapt to new situations. And yeah, I think it's much more important to stay agile and react to the situation than to stick to the rules that we never agreed will be the final rules, right? So I think it was okay.
Yeah, the game is not static. So what do you think is the pressure that we are feeling here? Is it like OpenGov, is it able to adapt to the situation also in the coming months, or is there a need to get a resolution from the fellowship quickly?
Yeah, I can't actually comment too much about this because I was mostly focusing on like developing the model that can work in the, whenever we deploy it, and we should not be able to, or we should not need to change it much. Whether there are some very short-term fixes in the sense of new OpenGov proposals, like creating new cores, allocating new cores to teams through governance, I can't say. I would not be involved in that.
All right. Okay, I see no new questions on this topic, so I would suggest we give the word to Kian.
I also want to ask one last question about Jonas. What was like the main like pushback on your proposal? I haven't read the whole thing, but I think it would be good if you summarize like the trade-off that we're choosing here.
Yeah. So one pushback was that the price that can be the price within one market cycle is capped by a factor of 2 times the so-called reserve price. And the reserve price is scaling up and down based on the consumption. So whenever we sell, let's say, all the cores, the reserve price slowly goes up over time as long as we exceed 90% capacity. And on top of that, we have a Dutch auction where the maximum price starts at 2 or 3 times that value. And one of the issues, of course, is that if somebody would be willing to pay 6 times the price of the reserve price, they can't do that. And this is kind of necessary because we don't want somebody, since we guarantee renewals, that they will always be able to renew, even if they haven't participated in the market. It could mean that somebody that was winning in the auction will not get a core, right? Because they only help to find the price, but then the renewer can kick them out. And too obvious. Let's say we have 2 cores and 2 really good projects, then you know that you won't get like this. These projects really need to renew their cores, so you could basically bid up the price by a lot, knowing that you won't get the core, right? So it gets kind of like this cheaper thing. And this is kind of necessary because we want to give the privilege to renewers to never be kicked out as long as they can pay. And then, yeah, this, this was one criticism, but my answer to this is that it's much more important to keep projects in, not kick them out, but like maybe prevent some new people from coming in when there's not enough cores for a few months, right? Because if they keep participating, they will drive up the price. And then at some point, the old team needs to drop out because they can't pay anymore and the new team comes in. So this was one of the trade-offs that I did. Then I think another main issue was that if we have this maximum price, then we could see tipping wars because people want to buy the core at the maximum price, and they would tip collators to get their bid in the first block if everybody wanted to buy all the cores in the first block. My feelings to this are a little bit mixed. Like the economic answer I would give is that, a tip is just the extension of a bid. It would not be ideal because the tip doesn't go to the protocol. It's not burned, but it goes to the collator. But still, what's important with auctions is that we achieve efficiency. And efficiency is basically defined as whoever wants to pay the most gets the core. That would be secured even with a tipping war, right? But another thing is that even if somebody would buy these cores in a tipping war, there's still a market phase at the end of the month where you have 7 days where there's a secondary market. So we would assume that inefficiencies clear out there, right? So let's say that I was able to get all the cores first I can't kick out any project that's already in, right? Because I don't have the power to do so. The only power that I have is to buy all the cores that nobody else wanted so far. So I get them, and an economic actor would probably just sell them on the secondary market to some project that would like to pay even more for this. And in that moment, the core goes to some team that actually wants it, and then they are basically in this renewal protection phase. So yeah, I think these are the main issues. And as I said, whenever we have like some intervention in the market, then there's some inefficiency somewhere, right? Like the easiest thing would be to just have a candle auction and everybody can bid as much as they want, but then there's no guarantee that you can renew your core. If you didn't manage to do so, then you're being kicked out. Then of course the bids would represent like the true market. But I think everybody agrees that this would not be great because if you're a parachain, you want to have some stability. And my idea is to give them a little bit more time, but I mean, eventually they would still be driven out, right? If the price goes up.
All right. I guess this answers your question. Awesome. Okay, thank you, Jonas. And while we have you here, we also see that you submitted another proposal today, so maybe let's give that 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So this is RFC 146, and we're also going to post it in chat here. And this is about, it's called Deflationary Transaction Fee Model for Relay and System Chains.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds more fancy than it is probably. I'm just proposing that the share right now, 80% of the relay chain fees go to the treasury. We all know we kind of revamped the system where the treasury has some like fixed inflow. So that's not really necessary. It's also historically quite low. So we can just burn it. I saw your comment of actually having this, maybe giving validators more, but I don't expect fees to be very much on the relay chain anyway, because we are pushing all the activity away from the relay chain. So this would be probably just symbolic. But what's more important is to also burn all the fees, or 80% of the fees for system chains. And there, I think the 20% is still very important because you want to give like an incentive for collators to pick up transactions and include them into blocks. But they are being, paid like with this invulnerable system, and even the other ones that are not non-invulnerable, they are being like retrospectively paid by the infrastructure bounty. And also they are not really security relevant, at least for like shared security. So there's, in my opinion, actually not a big reason why, collators should benefit from a high transaction volume on system chains. So it would be much nicer to translate this value to every token holder. And you can do that pretty easily by just burning the fees, because every dot that is in circulation basically, gets the value accrued from this. I actually don't know whether this will make like a big impact because the fees right now are rather low. But also I feel that the code change, or I know that there's not a lot of code that needs to be changed. So I think it just makes sense, and maybe it adds to the value or maybe not. But if Polkadot Hub is actually very successful, the transaction fees could still be cheap, but a lot of transactions of low fees still make up some amount, right? So that's basically it.
All right, thank you for introducing the topic. We would have up to 2 minutes for questions. Is there any questions? Okay, I don't see that. All right, then thank you, Jonas, for stopping by as our special guest today.
Thanks for inviting me, Basti.
Yeah, and we're gonna move on with rank 6 in the fellowship, Basti. So Jonas, you just mentioned that right now there's not a lot of volume in terms of transaction fees, but Basti is gonna change that with the legendary Basti blocks. And last month he announced that he is gonna finish them within the month. So I'm very curious to hear what's been going on in the last month.
I should have shut up last month and didn't have anything. I have to admit that I didn't manage my own timeline because, there's there was this Coretime thing that cost a lot of time, and then some other issues also. And I was also at this Jam experience 2 weeks ago. So I spend my time, like most of the time, not doing task blocks instead of rescuing other things. And yeah, so yeah, I've done some things on my Basti blocks. There was like I found a bug, and I could actually also fix it, which is quite good. Yeah, otherwise, like I said, like I was fighting like our lovely friend, the Coretime Baron. At some point, I hope to meet him and like, but we see. Yeah, otherwise, I was on this gem experience in Lisbon. I was then deep diving a little bit into gem and doing some things. I tried to make like a third chain running on gem. Like the small things. But actually, like I managed to because like you can already compile some things, or like you can already compile the runtimes to RISC-V. So yeah, I also didn't finish that one, but I think I will, or like my plan is to finish it, because like I mean I've written like a kind of off-chain, not on gem thingy, based on what Jan told me what I should do. I've basically implemented that one, and that works. So like I can load the runtime, the RISC-V runtime, and then like re-execute some block. So that works. And I've also written like a very easy parachain service. I mean, it's really shitty, and like yeah. And now I need to port like my code I've written like for this off-chain thingy into my services, and like see if that works. But I think it will work, and then like it's yeah, quite nice to see that if it really works. And like the next step then would be actually like to connect like a node to the thing. But I mean that's like a little bit more next level, and requires like a lot of more changes. Yeah, that was my month mainly.
All right, thank you, Basti. Does anyone have a question for Basti and how his Jan 0 experience was? How was the testnet launch?
I wasn't. I left before that one. I don't know if they. I don't know if they managed to. I mean, I didn't saw any communications around that one. So like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the like as the other ones. I saw the gem poster. So, but yeah, it was.
So, what can you tell us about the gem poster?
It's mining Bitcoin. I mean, I'm joking, but it was like really loud and like.
I mean, you would expect that, right?
I don't know. It was like for I don't know what they could. I think they don't run anything on that right now. But it was like really loud for not doing anything, and like yeah, I think also like the heating as far as or like as they thought was like the heating of the pool was not yet working or something like that. But yeah, it was funny to see that they like what I found interesting is that like so they convert like the heat 3 times. So like they get the heat from the machine, then it gets converted to it's the air, and then I think then they cool then they take the air. With the air they heat up some thingy, and that gets transferred somewhere, whatever. But yeah, it's basically like they convert like the heat 3 times before it actually hits like the pool, which I mean you could say it's quite inefficient. I mean, like the purpose of that is for sure is just to get the heat away, but I'm not to heat the pool. But yeah, you probably could make it better if you would not do it like 3 times or whatever. Just anecdote.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Basti.
No problem.
I want to see it too one day. All right. Okay. We're moving on. Next up is rank 4 in the fellowship, Robert Klotzner, with a salary of $10,000. Robert. Hey, welcome.
Yeah, so what happened up to, like, at the top of my head, like, yeah, Polkadot Kusama incident kept us quite busy, unfortunately, but that's mostly resolved. Coretime. So I was involved in all these discussions. We are currently finalizing a deal with Rob Habermeyer to look into integrating nonce into substrates, which is cool because it will improve single shard performance quite a bit. And yeah, other than that, main topic this year, reliability and low latency. So having fast blocks which actually get into the relay chain with high probability, so you can have fast confirmation, which means something. Yeah.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I just realized this yesterday when I was reviewing the last call. I completely missed that one sentence where you said we're integrating NOMP into Substrate. That's actually pretty exciting, right?
Yes, I mean, it will take some time. It's an explorative phase right now, so we are seeing how would this even work and all these things. But yes, it is. Yeah.
So what performance gain are you hoping to see from NOMP?
Like Rob is having pretty high numbers. I would be happy with a 10x persisted until like very large states, which isn't the case right now. So if we had like 10 times what we have now until the billions of accounts, that would be pretty good, I think. So that's my hope, what we can achieve with this.
So that means 10 times the read speed at the same number of accounts, or 10 times the accounts?
No, it would actually be roughly 1,000 times the account and 10 times the speed.
Wow.
That to be seen, but that would be my minimum would want to see.
Okay, so that's your conservative hope?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, pretty cool. Yeah, looking forward to that. And of course, I'm gonna come back to you with this again and again now that you've given me some numbers. Good. So the main benefit of integrating NOMP is that you have basically a faster speed and you can store more accounts on this, right? Okay. So that means, for example, if we would do another spamming and we had NOMP, then we could, for example, instead of the, what did we have, like 140,000 transactions, we could have like 1 million transactions, 1.4 million. Would that be the case?
I would need to, it depends on so many things. So to give like it should be more, like honestly, because execution speed is lower with binary. We also get the POV size down. So the numbers should definitely improve. I will not get pinned down on numbers right now.
Yeah, I mean, there is going to be another bottleneck at some point, right? But basically, the bottleneck of having it here is going to move further out on the storage side, right?
Yes. So the most important part is actually the reduction in POV size. So this should give us more throughput per core, which matters if you consider like whole network throughput. Because if we would only improve execution time, then actually the whole throughput should roughly stay the same because we only have the number of cores. But anyways, so it should. No, I'm not saying anything.
All right. Okay. Very well. Thank you, Rob. And I don't see any questions. Good. Then let's move on. Next up, rank for the fellowship is Kian Enigma. Hey, Kian.
Hi. So I think the main news of the month for many of us is that we did asset hub migration on West End. I won't go too much into details. I think we have like more fellowship members who would comment on it. I would just focus on the staking part that it's not like active yet on asset hub, but we still have to on asset hub West End, but we still have to fix a few like things that went wrong throughout the migration. But I really hope by end of this week, we will have like our sort of like new staking, which is from users' perspective, the same thing, but a lot of things under the hood are working differently, live in West End, which
it's
would
always more interesting.
Give myself and a few of us a lot of confidence in that this thing is working, and we can then drill down into like more debugging and so on. I hope that will be the case very soon this week. The rest of Asset Hub I will defer to Dono and others to comment on. The only other thing I want to add here is that I think a month or two ago in one of these calls, I promised like a description of this system so that other people, other developers in our community can like look into it, sort of verify it, and help us in maintenance long term. And luckily, last week we had a sort of like a parity retreat around doing West End Asset Hub migration, and a lot of people were there. And I did a presentation in this retreat, which was also recorded, and I'll share this soon in all the fellowship chats, so people can look into it and get a better understanding of what we have to change to run our staking system on Asset Hub, what has to change, and I think this is like overall very good for everyone to be familiar with for a number of reasons. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Also, a little small update on RFC 97 on bonding queue. We ran into some issues thanks to Blockdeep's implementation, as they embarked on implementing it, we realized that it had some minor issues, but still sort of worth fixing. And this week we are redoing the specification and continuing with the implementation afterwards. I think timelines for that, it would still be either same as with Asset Hub migration, when it will land on Kusama and Polkadot, or immediately right after it. So we're looking at Q3 on Kusama or end of the year for Polkadot for this feature, which I think would be a lot of people would be happy to not wait 28 days to unbond funds. I think historical data from Jonas shows that under normal circumstances, almost everyone would be unbonded within 2 to 3 days. So that's a pretty good improvement. First priority for me next to Asset Hub migration, and we should have it by end of the year.
Very good. Does anyone have a question for Kim? All right, then let's move on. Next up is Joe Petrovsky, rank 3 in the fellowship with a salary of $6,666.67. Hey, Joe.
Hi. Yeah. I think I'll leave it to. I was pretty short updates. I guess Donald can talk about the Asset Hub migration stuff that we did last week on West End, and then I mean the other topic that I mostly work on is contracts. I don't know if there's anything super groundbreaking to report in the last month. We're mostly code complete on the protocol level, so we've been doing some hackathons, getting some user feedback from people. There was one in Toronto last week. We were hoping to do the migration on West End and have nobody notice, but unfortunately, for the wrong reasons, people did notice. But otherwise, I mean, we're talking to a lot of wallets like Talisman, MetaMask, making sure that all the stuff works on our contract workflow. We implemented, I guess this might have been a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if this was in the last fellowship call or not, but all of the standard Ethereum precompiles that come with EVM, we've implemented those. And then it's a bit confusing. We've chosen a little bit of a naming collision here, but we have this precompile framework as well, which is really the palette interface between contracts. So there will be some interface between contracts and XCM, staking, governance, in particular assets, so that there's an ERC20 contract interface between the native USDT and USDC that are under palette assets, and then the contracting environment. So I think some of those are they'll maybe get pushed a bit later, but we should be launching with at least the assets and the XCM ones in September. So yeah, nothing, no earth-shattering news, but everything is still on track for what we originally planned with contracts.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Fine. For the precompiles, I know these precompiles should be stable, but I think it would make sense if there's one unstable one for executing code. So that you can basically just execute everything that is available on chain. Could we do that?
Yeah, but then if that interface changes, because a contract.
That's the reason why I would call it unstable. But I think what it will bring is I mean, I got this idea in this discussion on the forum, but because Joseph is kind of right that you want if you want to have people tinkering around and play around, this kind of interface could give you like this playground of people can just play around and build things. And it could like also educate you on the long run, which kind of precompiles are required. So for example, someone wants to do like some crazy stuff with staking, which is maybe not supported by the precompile, but maybe supported by the cause or whatever. And they can just do some things. And then like it's just up to the contract developer and like say, no, my stuff can break, all these kinds of things. And I mean like just call it stable, unstable, or like just call it directly unstable call interface or something. So like big warnings, unstable stuff will break, blah blah blah. But I think it's helpful so that people can just think around, play around, and yeah, let their imagination play.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think you're right. That would inform the API design of the other interfaces. So yeah, sounds good to me.
No, but Robert, to your point, why not tinker? Like you want to have economically tinkering around or whatever you want to call it. Maybe I want to have my own staking contract or whatever. Like why limit people if you can just like give them unlimited? Like yeah, I think it just like gives people like just opportunity to do things, and like I mean you could even like argue that maybe someone is like building these calls actually off chain and then sends them alongside to the contract with the call to the contract or something like that. So like there are multiple ways how you, and then like your contract is not bound to these interface or a little bit like that. So
yeah, I mean probably other people know way better than me, but like my understanding is that contracts are immutable. So if you deploy a contract using this and then it gets used and then you break it, that sounds like bad, but that's just
yeah. But I mean, like then but other contracts, I mean, they just switch to new ones or just point to the new one or however that works. But yeah, otherwise you're just restricted to this small like the barriers you have, and like then there's nothing you can like. For sure, there's probably still a lot of things that you can do, but I think that, like it just, especially like, for example, when you're like on a hackathon or whatever, you just want to get stuff done or something like that. I think it's just a cool feature to have, and should be mentioned with all the KFAT and like all the problems. Like yeah, stuff can break any moment. Don't rely on this, blah blah blah. But I mean, like, yeah, if that is done from the beginning, I think it's nice.
All right. Maybe so. Maybe this is a good point to raise this. So there was this discussion on the forum where someone posted about the compatibility of smart contracts, and so the thread is called "Almost compatibility is unsafe." I'm not sure if you have seen that, but the argument basically goes that you could either have full compatibility or compatibility in spirit, or then something between where you say it's like almost compatible but not 100%. And I believe I've seen like different discussions in places about how compatible is, and sort of there seems to be this conflict between having Ethereum compatibility and then at the same time also keeping the sort of the compatibility with PVM or the ability to use PVM from other things like Ink also simple. So like has there been discussions going on, or what's the discussions going on here in terms of how compatible, or how Ethereum compatible the smart contract should actually be?
Yeah, I mean, like we don't have like, I mean, like it would be nice if Alex and Cyril were here to talk about it. Like I saw the thread and I think I've read like maybe like 1/3 of it or something, or there's probably more responses since I checked a few hours ago. Yeah, I mean, like it's engineering. There's always trade-offs, you know, and like I think the post is probably like a year late. Like we were having a lot of these talks, you know, at the beginning about, you know, what kind of compatibility we would expect. Yeah, of course, like you can go for like just a straight, you know, like a quote unquote pure EVM implementation. But then that's also going to like just be cross-compiled into PVM eventually. And yeah, like it will of course be like more compatible with certain applications or certain tooling. But you'd also miss out on like the benefits of that PVM will offer. So of course there's no right answer, but yeah, I think we made the design choices we did for good reasons.
All right. Thank you. That's fairly straightforward. And I think the main argument is typically that it's still on the base you have PVM, and so Ethereum compatibility is one of the design goals, right? But I guess it's sort of then the additional effort you would have to have 100% compatibility is where you say it would be too much. Do I understand correctly?
I mean, it's not too much. Like we already have, you know, Palette Frontier or something, but you know, like it's not going to offer the benefits that PVM will offer. So like we chose to go with Revive, understanding that there will be some compatibility